Sadly, most of what you'll see, hear or read about legendary character actor Vic Morrow never really gets much further or much deeper than the tragic accident on the set of Twilight Zone the movie. But personally, I prefer to focus on celebrating the life and career of one of the most gleefully cantankerous actors of his generation. So Vic Morrow was, of course, an American actor and director. He was best remembered for his intense, rugged performances on both the big and small screens. He was born Victor Morozov on the 14th of February 1929 in the Bronx, New York, and he was the son of Russian Jewish immigrants. So after serving briefly in the US Navy, Morrow attended the Florida State University, where he studied pre-law before shifting his focus to acting, fortunately for all of us. So he later trained at the Actors Studio in New York, honing a kind of gritty sort of naturalism that had come to define his career. And Morrow knocked it out of the park in his film debut in 1955's Blackboard Jungle, where he played a rebellious student opposite Glenn Ford. And this role established him as a powerful presence and a convincing portrayer of volatile working-class anti-heroes, roles that he played with glee throughout his career, and something of a specialty for Vic Morrow throughout his decades-long career. So throughout the late 1950s and 1960s, he appeared in a variety of film and television roles, including Men in War from 1957, King Creole from 1958 with Elvis Presley, and God's Little Acre from 1958. But his most enduring role, of course, came with the hit television series Combat, shot between 1962 and 1967, where he starred as Sergeant Chip Saunders, a tough but compassionate World War II infantry leader. And the show was widely acclaimed for its realism, its humanitarianism, and Morrow's performance. He got respected as both an actor and a director during Combat because he directed several episodes himself. And after Combat, Morrow continued to work steadily in film and television, often in hard-edged or morally ambiguous roles, I guess you might say. And some of his notable later credits included Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Bad News Bears, and a lot of guest appearances on popular shows like Police Story, The Streets of San Francisco, and even Charlie's Angels. But now we get into my favourite part of Vic Morrow's career, horror and exploitation, of course. So firstly, we had 1980s Humanoids from the Deep, from everyone's favourite director, Roger Corman, B-movie director that is. This movie is very much maligned and very misunderstood. Basically, it's a pollution mutation horror movie, and at face value, it appears quite tasteless and misogynistic. And to be fair, there's probably a case for both accusations. But Humanoids from the Deep is at its heart a bit of a satire, and there's a lot of evidence for this peppered throughout the movie. I mean, one scene even depicts a mob of angry men beating down one of the titular humanoids in the movie with laughably short pieces of wood. So there's nothing Freudian about that. So it isn't as sexist and misogynistic as it appears at face value. But anyway, Vic Morrow plays a Quint-type character, and he sort of reminded me of the wrestler King Harley Race in this one. So it is a very misunderstood movie and worth a revisit with an open mind if you were previously offended by it. And then in 1981, we had Great White, aka The Last Shark, directed by the great Enzo Castellari. And this is an amazing performance by Vic Morrow. Again, he plays a Quint-type character, or basically he does play Quint. So closely, in fact, that this movie almost got sued out of existence, or it did get sued out of existence. But if you can see it, Vic Morrow is great in this one. He doesn't do the Indianapolis monologue like Robert Shaw did, but he does offer us a treat by doing, by appropriating, I guess, Richard Dreyfuss's Wasn't Jack the Ripper monologue, with a few slight tweaks, but highly entertaining nonetheless. So definitely check out Great White. And then finally, in my opinion, there is Vic Morrow's finest hour, which is, of course, 1990, the Bronx Warriors. So Vic plays Hammer in this one, who's a renegade cop. And 1990, The Bronx Warriors was a bit of a mashup of Escape from New York and The Warriors, directed by Enzo Castellari and written by screenwriter Tito Carpi. And Vic Morrow as Hammer does chew up the scenery in this one, and he steals every scene that he's in, as always. And I really like the chemistry in 1990, The Bronx Warriors, between Vic and Christopher Connolly from Raiders of Atlantis. And probably the role that everyone knows Vic Morrow from, aside from combat, is his final role. Probably my least favourite Vic Morrow movie, which is Twilight Zone the movie from 1983. It's a movie forever tainted by tragedy. Vic Morrow was still in his element in this role, even though there were a lot of issues with this movie, to say the least. On July 23rd of July 1982, he was killed in a helicopter accident on set, along with two child actors, during the segment being directed by John Landis. So this was a tragic accident, of course, but it did lead to years of legal proceedings and some pretty major reforms in terms of film production standards, especially safety standards. But despite his untimely death, Vic Morrow's legacy lives as a gifted and talented actor. He kind of struck me as having his own unique method, not so much in the sense of being a method actor, I guess, but what am I trying to say? I guess more in the sense of what would cantankerous Vic Morrow do? How would I, Vic Morrow, react in this situation? Which is pretty cool, really, and a different approach to a lot of actors. A little known fact, of course, Vic Morrow's daughter is Jennifer Jason Leigh, star of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, The Hateful Eight, and Single White Female. And she's far from being a nepo baby. She's taken on her father's sense of humility. She's quite unique in Hollywood in that regard. She never really talks about Vic Morrow being a father. She hasn't tried to hang her coattails on her father's legacy, unlike so many of these second-generation Hollywood actors and actresses. And she's really forged her own path in the film industry. But I am getting off the subject of the man of the hour, who is Vic Morrow, one of the best character actors, taken too soon. But part of me thinks that Vic Morrow would have found modern Hollywood a bit bullshit anyway, and he wouldn't have fit in, to say the least. So I think the main takeaway is that Vic Morrow was so much more, so much bigger than just being remembered as a sad statistic. Bit of a regrettable footnote in the making of Twilight Zone the movie, which was a disaster on many fronts. So instead of just remembering a chopper falling out of the sky and the tragic death of an actor and two innocent children, I prefer to remember Twilight Zone the movie, or Vic Morrow's other movies, more for his talents, whether it's facing off against the great white shark in The Last Shark, facing off against Bronx gangs, or facing off against Humanoids of the Deep, and of course as the father of Daisy Domergue from The Hateful Eight. Probably not the least of his achievements. So, yeah, as I said, Vic Morrow is so much bigger in all respects than just one tragic event, and he deserves to be remembered for more than just a horrible accident. So I hope you'll check Vic Morrow out in 1990, The Bronx Warriors, or The Last Shark, or Humanoids from the Deep, or the series Combat, or even the Twilight Zone the movie, if you can get past all of the sadness and sorrow associated with that one. So that's about all I have on Vic Morrow, one of the greatest character actors of his generation. He really did inhabit all of the roles that he played, whether it was as a Quint type in The Last Shark, a Quint type in Humanoids from the Deep, or a renegade cop in 1990, The Bronx Warriors, or as a bigot in Twilight Zone the movie, or a hard-nosed sergeant in the series Combat. He really gave his all and did inhabit these roles in his own unique method acting sort of way. So that is character actor Vic Morrow, well worth remembering. That's about all I have to have on Vic Morrow today. Hope you enjoyed the upload and you're enjoying the content of this channel. If so, please let me know how my driving is by liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that jazz. And I hope you have a great rest of the day, rest of the evening, rest of the morning, whenever you're watching. And I look forward to seeing you next time.